All right. Hey, Clubhouse. Hey, Instagram. Hey, YouTube. For all of my Clubhouse folks, I am not actually recording the Clubhouse stream. I am triple broadcasting this reading on YouTube Live, on Instagram Live, and let me tell y'all, I got a new microphone. I have my stuff set up. I'm ready today. My name is Dayna Lynn Nuckolls, the People's Oracle, aka the Sidereal astrologer. This is divination for liberation, where liberation is the function, not a feature. Today, I am doing a new moon and solar eclipse reading. This is eclipse 3 of 8 in the series Decolonizing Your Survival Instinct. Today's title is Save Yourself. Now, what I'm about to do right now, if I can get YouTube, it's not too many people on there, but I'm going to pick one person. Winter, turn the hand raising back on real quick for me because I'm going to pick one person from the audience. I can't even say it before y'all don't raise your hand. From each audience to give a reading. So whoever the first person was that raised their hand, you could turn it back off, Winter, because I think we have enough people. So whoever the first person is that raised their hand, invite them up and I'll give them the reading on Clubhouse. Whoever space I see on Instagram, please, yes, whoever's hand I see on Instagram first is who I'm gonna call. And I'm actually going to let's see, I don't see anybody on YouTube yet that has raised their hand. They have a little bit of a delay, so let's go to Clubhouse over here. The Yoga Bay, how are you today?
Hi. Oh my, I'm so excited. I got chosen. What's up, y'all?
Hey, okay.
Hey.
So no question required. I'm just shuffling these cards, and whatever your ancestors, spirit guides, gods and goddesses, etc., have for you today is what's coming through. So
Lay it on me, girl.
listen, let's see. The card on the bottom is the Fool. So this is about new risk. This is about newness, leaving behind the past, letting go of worry and concern, walking your path without a map. This is what the Fool is. So let's see here. We've got the Five of Cups. So this is telling me that there's some grief that you've been holding back from expressing. There's some adjustments that you're making in your expectations emotionally, and this requires you to move through the grief process. So for me, these cards are really telling me that you can't skip over this step. I feel like you're not moving through this grief process because of fear of uncertainty. You just, maybe it's going to be so, you fear the heaviness and weight and emotional intensity of it, or whatever it may be. There's some way that you're holding back from taking, walking through this grief as a means to getting to where you're going. And I don't know if you feel like it's a blockade or what's going on, but these cards are encouraging you to dive into this grief process and allow it to shift and change your expectations so that you can actually receive what's coming for you. Does that make sense, Yoga Bay?
Yeah, I feel that.
Okay. All right. And it can also be too that you're just in the midst of this process of shifting your expectations about your future and your path. And it might bring up some grief for you in that process. So don't be afraid of that and recognize that this is a part of your path to where you're going. It's not an obstacle. And so you can dive in that with the same risk-taking, excitement, and lack of concern and care as you would something exciting and wonderful. I hope that makes sense for you, Yoga Bay.
Thank you. That felt good. Thank you.
You are very welcome. All right, first person I see on here is Steph K on Instagram. Steph K on Instagram. This is for you. I'm coming to you, YouTube. I see all of y'all. Steph K. Let's see. We've got the Justice card. So this could be about a really important decision that you have to make, Steph K. where it is requiring you to set aside your emotions, requiring you to set aside any preconceived notions or judgments that you're making, and really just get down to the get down, see things as they are, and move forward into that decision. It also may be that there is a process of litigation or a court case that is in question. This can often come up when you have to file some court papers, maybe divorce, child support, name change, or even something more intense like that. But let's see what the card here is. We've got the 8 of Pentacles. Oh no, this is the 7 of Pentacles, not the 8. About to say, I'm like, that's weird. All right, 7 of Pentacles here. I'm wondering if there's some kind of court case, some kind of litigation, decision-making process that you are waiting to begin, or that you are waiting to reap the benefits of. The 7 of Pentacles is this card about, are the material things that you've invested in this thing going to reap the benefits and consequences that you intended in a material way? So that can mean that you are waiting for some kind of motion or further process in a litigation thing going on, or you are in the process of waiting to make a decision, Steph K. So overall, the 7 of Pentacles is a card of patience, of waiting, letting your work catch up with you. Don't dive into something or starting something new at this moment. Hold back and wait and see if what you have already invested and put forth in this process is going to reap the benefits for you before you make a decision about what you're going to do next. Hope that was helpful for you, Steph K. All right. Shalisa Spence. That is who we're picking on YouTube. After I do these cards, we're going to move into the astrology portion of the reading today. So hold tight. Hope you got your 2020 Sidereal astrology guide out, because I am going to be referencing some parts of that. Let's see here. Who did I say? Shalisa. That is a lot of S's. Shalisa Spence over here on YouTube. All right. Let me pull this back up so I can make sure that you all can see this. All right. Shalisa Spence on YouTube. We've got the 7 of Wands. So this is talking about some area of your life where you have had to persevere, where you have had to stand up for your beliefs, or that you have had to continue and pressing forward despite the resistance that you feel. 7 of Wands rather is a card of getting your weight up. This is about the inner courage and fortitude that is required to maintain your stance, whether physically or in your convictions, in spite of what you may encounter, but actually using the resistance that you encounter as fuel for your sense of righteousness. Shalisa Spence, we've got the Knight of Wands here. So this leads me to believe that you've been in this stance of pressing and persevering and holding down this particular viewpoint, ideology, or even your own sense of personal boundaries. But the Knight of Wands is this card of you're going to have the opportunity soon to take advantage of or to move on this particular stance that you've been taking. So you can ask yourself, Shalisha, where have you had to press forward and persevere and hold without any external support, without an amen corner, without people cheering you on and saying good job, and only having your inner fortitude, courage, and conviction as fuel for keeping you going? This is saying that this is going to pay off, but you got to pay attention, because this opportunity is going to come swift and you've got to hop on it. All right. That is all I've got. All right, y'all. It is a new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio, everyone. And this particular series of eclipses began back in June with a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. The reading for that is up on YouTube and I believe Instagram, and it is called Not Peace, But a Sword. We back, y'all. We back. We're back to this Scorpio energy, these Scorpio transits and time. At this particular new moon and solar eclipse, the sun, Mercury, moon, and Venus are all in Scorpio. Let's talk about Scorpio really quickly, because this is one of the signs that when you're making the switch from tropical to sidereal, it is very difficult to let go of all of the stereotypes and tropes that you have associated with this sign. So throw away all of that stuff about sex and manipulation and all of these very, BDSM kind of kink, and like, let all of that go. This is not necessarily innate to the sign Scorpio. However, it can be associated with the concept of water signs in general. So let's just unmarry these particular concepts and let's talk about Scorpio. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. Water is about the body and the bodily functions. So whether we're talking about Cancer, Pisces, or in this case, Scorpio, we're talking about the physiological, biological, subjective, experienced reality of being in a body. So no language, no words, no objects outside of you, no ideas, no concept. This is the lived, subjective experience of physicality, right? That in our bodies, there are various things that we can measure, various things that we observe and experience, right? Without labeling, without putting them in a category, without adding judgment. This is just pure bodily existence. Each of the three water signs really speak to us about how our body and bodily functions are expressed, how we experience them, and they give us some ideas about what they're for. So if we start with Cancer, for example, this is the actual physical body, the process of birth, the connections biologically to other people through blood, through genetics. It is the processes inside your body speaking to each other about hunger, food, sleep, reproduction, right? All of these just pure functions. Then we get to Scorpio. And this is about the preservation of the body. So the body is born in Cancer via the moon, your mother, right? And the body is preserved, beginning with the process of severance from your mother. That's a key word for Scorpio and Mars. Birth is a process of severance. Literally, you must cut the umbilical cord. The symbolism of cutting the umbilical cord is that now you have to allow the instinct to live and survive. And it's not allow because you don't really have control of it, right? The instinct to live and survive is possessing you. It's living you, right? So when you snip that umbilical cord, now your survival is yours. And the process of physical maturation, the process of the development of the nervous system and the immune system and the digestive system and all of the bodily functions, there's that word again, are a process of developing autonomy, coming into right relationship with our bodies and its process of self-preservation, right? And then of course, Pisces is the way that those same bodily functions can have absolutely nothing to do with physiological, biological processes. For example, but our bodily functions are a woven network connected to each other. That even though in Scorpio, I'm preserving my own life, sometimes at the expense of family belonging and community. Hello, Scorpio moon, right? That sometimes my survival requires me to cut off the very people with whom I share biological connection, right? So I've got a lot of things, a lot of bombs I want to drop today, some new ideas. And it's really centering back on this idea of the body and the bodily functions and how every social construct that we have, race, gender, and sexuality to be specific, are a consequence of having observed and formed judgments about bodies and bodily functions and the categories we create as a consequence of those observations and the social hierarchies of power that take shape as a consequence of that. As I was talking through, what I wanted, talking and thinking through what I wanted to speak on today, I had this conversation with Winter, and who's up here moderating on Clubhouse for me. Shouts out to Winter. I had this conversation in Winter, and what we really got down to at the core of this whole race and gender and sexual identity thing was patriarchy. How do we get to patriarchy? Because without patriarchy, we don't have race, at least in America, right? And other societies where patriarchy is the dominant identity that holds power, right? That the core principle and doctrine of patriarchy is operating on a variety of assumptions. But here's the core, people. The core is that patriarchy is anchored on the belief that physical strength equates to an entitlement to authority. So let's go back. I said that all of the constructs that we have are about observations we make about the human form, about its biology and how it functions. The categories that we create, so genders are categories, male, female, right? We're going to set non-binary aside because in terms of the power structure, we began there. That humans made an assumption that if you have a penis, you must be a man. And if you are a man, you must be physically stronger than everyone else. And since you are physically stronger than everyone else, you are powerful. And since you are powerful, you are entitled to authority. This is problematic, right? That even racism, even anti-Blackness, in many ways goes back to patriarchy. It goes back to male equals physical strong equals power equals authority. What does maleness do with their power? They assume authority. What does patriarchy do with that authority? Create systems and structures that ensure they never lose it. We know power concedes nothing without force. But herein lies the problem. Patriarchy assumes that those who are assigned male possess certain physical qualities that make them entitled to authority. With that authority, we get racism. We know that the Europeans took their guns, which are an extension of their physical power, and colonized the whole damn world, infecting theretofore matriarchies and the variety of social structures with their special brand of insidious and violent patriarchy. So, let's talk about race. Let's talk about Blackness. I've got this book somewhere on my bookshelf called The Invention of Women. Is that what it's called? Yes, The Invention of Women. And sorry, I'm not going to get up there and go get it so I can tell you the author. I haven't looked at it yet. But the idea of the other, right? Whether it's and we're talking about in societies that are heteronormative, rooted in this cisgendered patriarchy. Every other identity in name exists in order to other everyone else, including women, children. Even the idea of being gay is a way to other and imply that heterosexuality is the norm, right? That heterosexuality is the norm. The word woman, and this is something unique to English that I know of, because at least I can think in French, Spanish, and some of the other Romance languages, the word for a human female is not a derivative of men. But in English, right, even the word for an adult human female is a derivative of men, woman. So somehow men are the norm. And everything else is a deviance of that. Same thing with sexuality. Oh, penis goes in vagina. When this happens, this process happens, it must be that men and women go together. So we take these concepts, we take these observable physiological, biological phenomenon, and we turn them into social constructs like gender. We turn them into social constructs like race. We turn them into social constructs like sexuality. The resistance that many of us engage in is about self-determination. I get to say who and what I am. I don't care what you think my genitals are for. I don't care what you think my skin color makes me. Because black is not a skin color. They've taken physically observable differences in amounts of melanin and translated it into a social construct, upholding that social construct and impressing upon all of us to conform to it. This is what power does, right? This is what power does. So this series of eclipses, all these S's are messing me up today. This series of eclipses is about decolonizing the survival instinct. We assume identities inside social constructs. We are assigned identities because anyone who is white and male in a white supremacist patriarchal society did not choose to be that. The dominant power structure decided you're black. Well, they didn't call you black, actually. They called you something else, but they othered you. They othered you based on the fact that you did not conform to their expectations of you based on who they said that you are. Decolonizing the survival instinct cannot end with merely saying, I am not. This is what Sidereal Aquarius gets caught up on. That in protest and resistance to being othered and named by the dominant power structure, they decide, I am not. But real self-determination sees that as part of the process and coming to a place where you decide who and what you are. What are you? What is blackness? How do you express gender? These categories in themselves are not problematic. The problem is that these categories are used to establish hierarchies of power with which we are oppressed. I don't have a problem being black. I have a problem with whiteness telling me what blackness is. I have a problem with being told that I'm not really black unless. And this is where it gets messy because we internalize these social constructs. This is the function of shame. The function of shame is to get you to conform so that you can remain in community. That's Taurus. Hi, Taurus. We all have Taurus somewhere. We just had a Taurus eclipse, right? And we've been having all of these conversations about gender and race and class and what you should do based on how much money you have, what you shouldn't do with your money. And a lot of times it's more about the performance, what is seen. This is where this binary between Taurus and Scorpio lands. That I may have an inner subjective experience of myself that transcends the binaries of white and black, that transcends the binaries of gay and straight, that transcends the binaries of male or female. Yet, how much control do I really have over how other people gender me? About the assumptions people make about who and what I am based on my race and color, or based on my skin color. The expectations and the power dynamics I am forced into in terms of sexuality because people are making an assumption about my gender. Those two are so very married, right? That assumptions are made about your sexuality based on what you appear to be. So then we come back to Taurus. Well, what do you appear to be? How do you perform? Right? For many of our trans family, this means that in order to survive, you must choose how you will perform and express gender, which might mean hormonal therapy, gender confirmation surgery, changing your name, changing your style of dress. This happens for us in our cultural communities as well. That we may have assimilated our dress, our hair, our style of speaking, in order not to feel too different. The wound of Scorpio is too different to hide. Those of you who have Scorpio rising sidereally, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who have any placements in sidereal, to be quite honest, too different to hide. Sometimes this difference is blatant. You're tall. You're black in a sea of whiteness. You're a big black man, beautiful, in a world that finds you to be a threat. You did not get to control your differences. You did not get to decide that you are different. Somebody differented you, right? This is a verb. Somebody differented you. Somebody said, oh, you're not the same. And then here come all of the assumptions about who and what you are. And not just assumptions. These assumptions lead to real life or death consequences for us. So what does decolonizing the survival instinct look like? It looks like becoming aware of the implications our race, our gender, and sexuality have on whether or not we're safe. In the 2020 Sidereal Astrology Guide, back here at the end where I have the fill in the blanks for December, under the 14th new moon solar eclipse, I have embracing firm emotional boundaries. Hello, Scorpio. We're all honorary Scorpios right now. And we've got some prominent Scorpio folks to teach us all about it, right? ALC is Scorpio rising with Venus in Scorpio. Cannot hide her difference. And again, difference being, who is this young, firecracker, bold, courageous, righteous Latina woman? Who does she think she is to speak truth to power? Who does she think she is to assume authority? Authority is for white men. Why is she here? Even President-elect Joe Biden, Scorpio rising with a bunch of planets there, who chooses a black woman to be vice president. I believe Vice President-elect Kamala Harris has some Scorpio too. Cannot hide their difference. This is messy. This is complicated. Because one, you didn't choose your difference. And in order to survive, you've absolutely had to conceal in order to make people comfortable. This is why this Scorpio moon is about firm emotional boundaries, because when it really gets down to it, what we are talking about is how much comfort is it safe to have with the way that our difference makes other people uncomfortable. This is a very delicate balance. We feel when we're being othered. We hear it. We're victims of it when we are othered. I remember riding the bus in high school, and this white girl told me I was chocolate. And I was like, obviously you don't know that many black people, because I'm not chocolate, right? Like, technically you can call me milk chocolate, but even still, she was calling me chocolate. And I was so offended. I don't think I was offended because she was trying to say I was dark, but like, who are you to tell me what my skin color is? Like, who are you? This is where I'm really looking forward to transits through Sidereal Aquarius, right? We're going to get an Aquarius moon in a couple weeks. And every time we have one, this is going to be a prelude. This is going to be setting a precedent for the Aquarius transits that are coming over the next 3 to 5 years. No, I wouldn't even say 3 to 5 years. Because Jupiter enters Aquarius April 2020, will leave in September, but will come back. And then by the time we get to like April 2022, Saturn is going to make its first appearance in Aquarius. This is the self-determination. This is how we bridge the tension, bridge the gap between Taurus and Scorpio. So I'm going to leave you with these 3 points as far as this astrology portion, right? 1, there is no shame to be associated with code switching, all of the ways that respectability politics show up. There is no shame. And it's important that as we are liberating ourselves, we free ourselves from that shame and we free others. Everyone makes very difficult decisions in order to survive. They may leave their mother tongue never to utter it again. They may discard their food traditions. They may embrace a mid-Atlantic English accent. They may choose professions that are likely to secure them the stability they seek. They may dye their hair. They may bleach their skin. They may excuse themselves of the binary of gender altogether, lest they be oppressed by the toxicity that is associated with that binary. We're all making these decisions to survive. And it's important that we work to release the shame around that, and that we work to release others from that shame as well. But as we are decolonizing the survival instinct, we are becoming aware of our motivations for even making those choices. And that when we embrace firm emotional boundaries, this is the severance again. We're making these severances all of our lives. The more we separate our emotional reality, our judgments of our emotional reality, and how we express or perform that emotional reality, the more that we're separating that from what we feel from other people. People don't have to tell us that they don't like Black people. People don't have to tell us that they hate women and they think that they're entitled to tell us. They don't have to say those words. We're living it. Our bodies are fine-tuned instruments of knowing. Thank you, Pisces, where Mars is. And this knowing is what allows us to make these snap judgments and decisions around survival that don't require intellectual processing. Let me look at my notes here. I think I hit it all. That as we're decolonizing this survival instinct, this is a long story. This is 3 of 8. There comes a point where we cannot be more concerned with other people's emotional comfort than we are with our own right to live and be as we are. Sometimes it's not safe to do that. Sometimes it is not safe to disregard the impact of your existence on other people. All marginalized identities know this well, especially our trans family. That their right to be, if you can't understand it in terms of race, if you can't understand it in terms of sexual identity, at least you got to see it with gender. The very idea that you would not call someone what they want to be called, who they tell you they are, is all the evidence that you need. That as a means to maintaining power and authority, whiteness and maleness refuses to see trans people as they are. Even as a Black person, we've danced with language around who and what we are. And we've been Black for some time now. James Brown wrote the song, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." That Black is not a slur. Black is a way for us to connect with each other across the diaspora. Whether you are African, Afro-Brazilian, Nigerian, Namibian, Angolan, right? Even those names that colonizers gave us. Colonizers gave us these names, these nations. When they arrived and when they left our shores and our land, colonizers decided that you were a nation. And so Blackness is a way to disrupt these false boundaries put in place by colonizers to try to further differentiate us. But Blackness is the way that we come together. Blackness is the way that we assume a rightful relationship with our identity so that we see each other. We sever ourselves from these other superficial differentiations. You see, this is a dance that when you sever yourself from the binary of male and female, from the binary of Black and white, these are observable phenomenon, so-called, right? But when you come back to the subjective biological reality, distancing yourself from the social construct, now you get to really know who you are. That even the binaries that exist are a colonization of our survival instinct. Yes, there are people who have penises. There are people who have vaginas. There are people who have both. There are people who have none. There are people with wombs and without wombs. There are people with testicles and without testicles. There are people with breast and without breast. These are observable phenomenon. But the colonization of our survival instinct says that I don't care what your body might feel like to you. You're what I tell you you are. You're male. You're black. And with that, a whole host of expectations come that if you do not conform, there is violence. There is violence in our families, violence in every institution. We must decolonize the survival instinct and understand that these social constructs are absolutely something we've had to conform to survive, but it's time to sever. Let's move on to the tarot card reading portion for today. Please hold your questions on. People just really be saying all kind of stuff on Instagram, and I be trying not to respond to that, but this person needs to be blocked. Kurt Schaefer photographs, talking about 5G and transgenderism. If you don't get your ass up out of here, here come white people once again. Here comes a white man once again thinking that because he is white and male, he has the power to tell you who you are. Fuck that shit. If you don't get up out of here with that shit, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we gotta dismantle patriarchy. This is why we absolutely, men, you have got to disconnect your identity from your genitals. You have got to disconnect your identity from this entitlement to authority. It's killing you. It's killing you. You can't even express joy without somebody calling you gay. You can't hug your son without implications of pedophilia. Is that how you want to live? Are you happy? Does that make you feel good? Do you like this prison? Only you have the power to get us out of this. Only you have the power to escape. You have got to decolonize your survival instinct. You can't be more concerned with being called gay than you are with saving your own damn life. Get some firm emotional boundaries and stop caring about the assumptions people make about your gender and about your sexuality. Because it's killing you. And because you can't handle and shoulder the shame, you're killing us. You're killing women. You're killing black women. You're killing trans people. And even if it's not your hands around their throat, your participation in this game is killing us. These people want to get me started today, and I just really don't have time. I don't have time. Let's pull these cards. I'm making good time today. That was 30 minutes. I'm so excited. I am so excited. Decolonize the survival instinct. Decolonize your survival instinct. You're upholding the construct. You're enforcing the construct. No, you didn't choose. You didn't make it up. But you're enforcing the construct by shaming other people into conforming into an expression of their sexuality based on what gender you think they are. Into an expectation about what emotions they can express or what emotions are legitimate for them to experience based on what genitalia you think are in their legs. Have you heard anything so ridiculous? Oh, nope, you got a penis. Guess you can't cry. I mean, this is essentially what the social construct of gender is saying. Oh, you've got a womb. Obviously, you're weak. If you don't get out of here. This is one last piece that I wanted to add to this too. That because patriarchy assumes authority based on their construct that maleness is more physically strong, and they use that physical strength, right, to oppress, right? That one, this is about coming into right relationship with power. That power does not equal authority, and that a rightful use of power does not equal oppression. That's a knot that men are going to have to untangle. But for the rest of us who are not cisgendered men, or even if you are a cisgendered male who does not conform to the social construct of manhood, and that's most of you all, if we're being honest, most of us are not identical matchups with the social constructs associated with the ways we've been assigned gender, race, and sexual identity, right? So those of us who do not have the physical strength, that cannot overturn this empire by force, you must gird your loins spiritually. If you do not have a spiritual practice, your homework is to live your life regularly for the next week and pay attention to your meals. Pay attention to your bathing. Pay attention to your sleeping. These things that you're gonna do anyway. Pay attention to the way that ritual is already showing up in those spaces. Do you have a bedtime routine? Do you have a routine around eating and drinking? Do you have a routine around bathing? That if you can, with intention, just shift your perception of those routines, they become ritual. Right? This is where we start. You don't have to go to a church and get baptized. You don't have to be initiated into a spiritual tradition. You don't have to pray a special prayer. You don't have to have the blessing of some priest or elder. That your connection with the divine and accessing spiritual power can happen right at your kitchen table, right in your bathtub. When you are bathing, make an intention to wash off the ways that you have been colonized. Make an intention that it's going down the drain. When you are eating, you can bless your food, simply asking that this nourishment be transmuted and transformed into spiritual nourishment. That's what you do when you go to communion anyway. What do you need a priest for? Right? All right. Here we go. Let's see. What do we got here? We started with the 9 of Pentacles. They're doing the most out there. Started with the 9 of Pentacles here. 9 of Pentacles. This is a card of material fluence, material stability, and affluence. This is a card of everything that you have is on hand. Everything that you need is within you. This is a card of material security and stability. And it just feels so ironic to be getting this card at this time when so many are housing insecure, food insecure, right? They don't have access to or the means to secure this material stability. So maybe that's what we need to be focusing on, our material survival. Challenging these ideas of self-sufficiency. Having firm emotional boundaries can often mean, no, I'm not okay. And I don't care if my not okayness makes you uncomfortable. I don't care if my grief brings you to tears. You should be celebrating. You should be grateful to share with me in my grief. To feel your humanness. To be given permission to access your own grief, your own fears, your own pain. 9 of Pentacles often comes up with readings and clients where they might feel that materially their life is great, but emotionally, boo. Lacking those connections that make them feel like they belong, make them feel like they are loved, make them feel like they're not alone, like they're connected to the larger fabric of community through relationship. 9 of Pentacles can be a card of the person who has material affluence or who has that stability, and yet at what cost? What is the price that you pay for security? What is the price you pay for material affluence? I mean, this is moving right into conversations about class. So as I was thinking, and this may not be a new idea, but it was new to me and I channeled it over this past week. So if someone else already said this, feel free to drop it in the comments because I don't assume that things come to me are just unique to me. I always say that if it's not confirmed, then it's not spirit. So I'm assuming someone has already said this idea. But for me, I'm thinking about caste as an amalgamation of our assigned race, our assigned gender, and our assigned sexuality, or the identities that we assume as a manifestation of authenticity, right? Caste is where you stand in the social order based on these designations. Caste establishes a hierarchy. And in this society, it is assumed that white, cisgendered men are at the top, that they are the ones entitled to power. Do you believe that physical strength, means that you are entitled to authority. When you parent your children, do you use your physical strength to enforce your authority? Your survival instinct might be colonized. Queen of Swords. Ace of Cups. And Seven of Swords. There is a lot in each of these cards about individuality, about self-sufficiency. This is a myth, right? This is a myth that humans are self-sufficient. And the idea that we have created an entire cultural identity rooted in this myth means that when something that requires to lean into our herd instincts in intentional ways, we suffer. This week, I tried to get this chair to make noise when I was setting up so I can put oil on it, and I couldn't get it to make noise, and now it's making all kind of noise. Oh well. This week, and I've been tweeting this and thinking about this and talking through this a lot, that resistance starts in the body. Resistance begins as an emotional reality that you either believe, know, or experience as making other people uncomfortable. Now, sometimes this is absolutely necessary, that there are certain emotional realities that are inappropriate to express at certain times. Cursing out the cashier at the grocery store. That's probably not appropriate. Feeling so angry at your child that you physically harm them. Eesh. Right? So these are instances, and I can come up with many more that are evidence of our colonized survival instinct and the ways that we're all participating in reinforcing the core myth of patriarchy, that physical strength equates to power that is entitled to authority. But there are other times where this is about, I don't know who, it's somebody like right outside my door talking. That's why I keep looking, y'all. And other times, we get so caught up on preserving power dynamics through these social constructs that even though they are oppressive and violent to our bodies, we enforce them on other people. This myth of individualism is one of these things. The myth of individualism has us all living in our own little boxes with no one to share the labor of survival with, no one to take turns cooking meals. And so instead, we outsource that labor to a lower class and refuse to pay them what they're worth. These are the people who know a little bit about sharing the burden of survival. These are the people who know about sharing the... Hold on, y'all. What is going on? I'm sorry, y'all. Can y'all quiet down just a little? I'm like recording something live and it's like coming right. Probably like another 15 minutes is all. Thank you. Thank y'all for your patience. They're out there doing non-safe quarantine stuff without masks. Anyways, these are people who know something about sharing the burden of survival. And quite frankly, most of us who came here forced or even as a hope to fulfill the American dream, right? That we get here and realize, ooh, this right here, this self-sufficiency, this material security that can come from the bootstraps is not a reality that we will ever encounter. We bring our communal ways here with us. And as we conform to white supremacy, as we are baptized into capitalism, we begin to shame each other out of our native ways. We shame each other out of shared meals. We shame each other out of intergenerational living. We shame each other out of communal childcare. We shame each other out of these things so that we can conform to the social construct. Again, these social constructs and how willing or able we are to conform to that is life or death. But the issue is that for most of us, for all of us, we did not choose what we were assigned. And for many of us, we cannot assimilate or conform our differences away. So what are you going to do? I can't hide my Blackness. I can't hide all of these social constructs that are associated with being Black. My full lips, my brown skin, the tone of my voice. I might be able to change the way that I speak so that like my Blackness is not too offensive to other people. And like, that's totally okay because like sometimes I have to do that to survive, you know? Maybe I might wear a hairstyle that makes people, now obviously y'all know I don't give a fuck about any of that shit, right? Cause see it, y'all can't see me on Clubhouse, but they can see me everywhere else, right? These cards, Queen of Swords, Ace of Cups, Seven of Swords. These swords are about the intellect. What are we using the intellect for? The Queen of Swords is that girl. The Queen of Swords is that person able to internalize, accept, and express. These S's are going to get me today. Express truths that make people uncomfortable. The Queen of Swords is able to objectify their own discomfort. Objectify means to no longer identify with it. Most of our discomfort with expressing ourselves authentically is not innate. Its origins are not internal. Its origins are because we have been indoctrinated into social constructs. And when we feel something inside of us that deviates from that construct, the doctrine is there. The myth is there, whispering in your ears. Oof. You better straighten your back a little bit. You don't want to sway too much to the left and to the right because you might be gay. Ooh. Ooh, don't wear that dress. Your booty's showing too much. Just a little, just get you a little shaper, a little something to tuck that booty in. Eef, too much. Right? Oof. 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 Right? These are real things, right? That we have internalized this. This is as a means to survival. But when we embrace firm emotional boundaries, we develop a tolerance for discomfort. Let your discomfort that grows from the ways you deviate from the norms of race, gender, class, and sexual identity. Let that discomfort be a sign to you you've got some more decolonization to do. When you are imposing on yourself the expectation that you perform straightness, that your blackness should look this way or not. Don't be too queer. That emotional discomfort is something that you've internalized. That's why I really love this Ace of Cups next to this Queen of Swords. These are two real, like, you wouldn't expect that those cards have any relationship with them. But I really see the Queen of Swords as someone who has a high tolerance for discomfort, either because they've been through some shit or because they have some divine mandate to lead us in severing us from these myths. I like to think of myself as a Queen of Swords sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to tell the truth, okay? So these two cards next to each other, how are you growing and nurturing the emotional fortitude to tolerate discomfort, to tolerate the discomfort of perceived rejection, of anticipating rejection? How are you learning the ways that your survival instinct is colonized when that discomfort is signaled? Okay. Last card is the Seven of Swords, and this is where the intellect comes back. This is giving me so many Aquarius vibes, and I'm just very curious about, when is the Aquarius moon? I can't even... Winter, can you look up that for me? When does the moon enter Aquarius? I can't touch none of my devices because they're all... Oh, I can touch this one, but Winter, let me know when the Aquarius moon is coming up. It should be next Saturday? I don't know. When you figure it out, let me know, Winter. What was I saying? I was talking about the Seven of Swords and all the swords straddling this Ace of Cups as... What's up?
Friday the 18th.
What time?
It is 7:46 Central.
AM or PM?
PM.
Okay, so moon enters Aquarius this Friday. Good. So, yeah. Okay, so next weekend, a week from now, basically, we'll be at the first quarter moon in Aquarius. If you don't have the transits iCals, we're at the end of 2020, but we still got some time left. So there are iCals that you can download and import into a calendar on your Android, Apple, or other mobile device, and have all of the dates and times for when the moon changes sign in the Sidereal zodiac. I've got the ones for 2021 up in my store. So I want you guys to start paying attention to when the moon transits Aquarius. I got to say this for people because there's a lot of new people here who are not familiar with my work. I am the Sidereal astrologer. If you've heard of Sidereal, it is likely because of my work, because I have established a framework and am living and breathing, creating this framework around how to use the Sidereal zodiac that does not reproduce or duplicate the tropical framework, and also is not an appropriation of Vedic astrology. I am not a Vedic astrologer. Do not ever call me a Vedic astrologer, because I am not a Vedic astrologer. I am not Hindu. I do not speak Sanskrit. You know, if you want to do that, that's your job. But my calling is to create an astrology for Blackness, for queerness, right? We got to decolonize astrology too. We can't talk about decolonization and not be willing to up in and rip that bitch out every single where we find it. And this is what the Queen of Swords is about. The Queen of Swords is not afraid to say some shit that is going to make you uncomfortable, not afraid to think a thought that deviates from the ways that we have been indoctrinated. There are emotional consequences to telling the truth. There are emotional consequences to living your truth. There are physical consequences to living your truth. I'm not endorsing anyone to put themselves in harm's way. So again, you got to do what you got to do to survive. But embracing firm emotional boundaries doesn't always have to equate to shifting your performance and expression of your race, gender, and class. Discernment means you know when to let the fucks fly and when to hold them back, right? That's what discernment means. But if we are going to be real about this process, if we are going to be real and honest and truthful and dedicated and devoted to the process of decolonizing the survival instinct, we have to be willing to endlessly, without weariness, taking us down, to upend that bitch everywhere we find it. And when I get tired, I'm going to pass the baton on to the next one so I can rest. And when they get tired, they'll pass the baton on. And I'm going to get my rest and get back in the game. You understand what I'm saying? But we all have to be engaged. We all have to be in this work. The Seven of Swords is really flipping this whole individualist doctrine and myth on its head for me. Because both the Nine of Wands, Nine of Pentacles, that was on the bottom when we started, and the Seven of Swords, which were at the end, both have connotations around solitude, individualism, by myself, on my own. Seven of Swords is about solving problems and having the tools, finding the tools to solve the problem. What are the tools to decolonize? This is something that you can begin on your own. You don't have to wait for your neighbor. I want to read these tweets to you, and this is going to be the end of my thing. Once I end this, I am going to end the broadcast on YouTube. Before I read this last piece for you, I want to just make a couple of announcements. One announcement, really. Two announcements. One is that December 26th at 12 p.m. Central Time via Zoom, I will be presenting a forecast and predictions for next year, 2021, The Will to Live. The link is in the description of my YouTube video. You can also find the link on thepeoplesoracle.com. The latest post gives you info on how to register for that. There are links in my bio on Instagram. So if you would like to attend that presentation, it will be an overview of the major themes of 2021 and how they apply to you based on your sidereal moon and rising sign. I will be sending out instructions on how to cast your sidereal birth chart in a way that makes you able to apply the information I'm giving in that workshop. I will send that to you once registration completes. Lastly, if you are interested in learning more about sidereal and how to read your sidereal birth chart, I have a workshop, which is a 2-hour lecture, a workbook that I walk you through filling out during the lecture, and the slides from the lecture called Reading Your Sidereal Birth Chart. Again, the link to that is in the description to this video on YouTube, link in my bio on Instagram, as well as just going to shop.thepeoplesoracle.com, where you can find that workshop, as well as the iCals I mentioned, the 2021 Moon Transits iCals, Sidereal Moon Transits iCals, and the 2021 Planetary Transits iCals. The Moon Transits iCal has the dates and times that the moon enters a new sign in the sidereal zodiac, as well as the dates and times of all the new moons, full moons, and eclipses. The sidereal planetary transits iCals has all of the dates where the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn change sign, major aspects, squares, and oppositions, and trines, as well as, that's it. All right. Let me read this thing to y'all really quickly, and then we're going to move to questions. Again, if you have questions on YouTube, I strongly suggest that you join the Instagram stream, and I'll try to check Twitter for questions. And then, of course, Clubhouse, I'll take questions from you. I'll have Winter turn on the hand raising shortly. So let me just pull up this thread. And then that will be my benediction for today. All right. So I started this thread talking about mutable madness. Mutable madness is what I called the major astrological themes, going back really to early 2018 is when we first got introduced to that for real. And we've been there basically since Jupiter left Sagittarius, which was November 20th. All right. Mutable madness felt like chaos, overstimulation, too much info, constantly shifting and changing before you could properly adapt. This fixed feels like being triggered and gaslit. It feels like fight, flight, freeze, wash, rinse, repeat. What do I mean by that? I mean that in your body, you deeply know that you are unsafe. But by conforming to the status quo that, oh, everything is fine, it is undermining your ability to trust your body. This is why you need to embrace firm emotional boundaries. Fear and a sense of unsafety when everyone else is acting like everything is okay is not a signal for you to ignore your own body. Your survival instinct is giving you the message that it has been colonized. When in the face of a real threat, you are being pressed to conform to a reality that does not exist. Decolonizing the survival instinct feels so urgent and pressing. The ways we've adapted to survive shape and fill out our identity, and these identities, roles, and norms feel like prisons. Identity as an adaptive mechanism for survival means that evolution equals self-determination, deviance, and resistance. Resistance begins in the body. The revolution is physiological first. It's emotional. This is this reading today. It's daring to feel and consciously embody an emotional reality that not only challenges the status quo, but that also makes you uncomfortable. It makes the people around you uncomfortable. The revolution will not be televised because the revolution is in your body. Feeling your body, being in your body, that's where the revolution begins. Merely feeling a feeling that you even perceive, not even experience, will alienate you from community, will sever you from relationship is enough to engender shame that makes you conceal your identity. It's enough to cause you to conceal your feelings. You think being liked is about being in the in crowd? No, this is about power. Access to power is the difference between being oppressed or being the oppressor or radically overthrowing the whole system. There are very few things people are willing to give up their life for. Maybe their child or their family or their lover. And in this moment where the threats are internal, external, above and below and all around, there are way too many ways to die. But let us not be deceived. Identity makes many a willing sacrifice. When that identity assumes power in the hierarchies of race, gender, class, and sexual identity, that identity will die to preserve itself. That is all I've got for you all today. If you have been blessed and edified by this offering, please visit my Cash App, which is in the description to this video. It is on thepeoplesoracle.com. It is in my profile on Clubhouse. DAYNALN on Cash App and PayPal. Thank you all for tuning in on YouTube. Hope to see you on December 26th.